Can you guys hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now? Guys, hello? Can you hear me now? Because I can't really tell if you guys can hear me. Because on my side, they show that my microphone is working fine. So I'm not really sure on what's actually going on that side. You know. Oh, always. Short bro. Shout out. Okay, now we can start. Whew, I was panicking there. Again, hello everybody. Welcome back to Azure and .NET Fridays, where we explore the wonders of my favorite ecosystem. I'm not even gonna call it a framework because it's an ecosystem basically called .NET. So today we're gonna learn about that. And whoever is joining the channel for the first time, please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. But more importantly, that the sharing parts, that's what we're most concerned about. So yeah, thank you for coming down to the channel. I don't know if you guys are in the same country as me, but in my country right now, the time zone is 16:10, which is like 6, right? Let me just show, I think my slides are shared already. So let me just jump right into it. What is this MVC thing that everybody keeps talking about? What is MVC? That's like the whole question. But before I jump into MVC, I know I never properly introduced myself. So people, hello guys. My name is Pelilem Konazi from South Africa, third year student at the Durban University of Technology, doing IT there. Code lover. As you all know, of course, I'm a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. So we pretty much do advocacy work, if I could say it like that, for Microsoft. It's not really for Microsoft, but then we're just like in inspiring other people who are interested in tech and like educating them and everything, right? That's what we basically do as ambassadors. So for this is a short bio. I don't really have a lot on my bio. So without any further ado, let me just jump onto the first slide. What the architecture of ASP.NET, because MVC exists in ASP.NET. If you guys did check the first video of this session on Azure and .NET Fridays, I explained what ASP.NET is. It's a web framework for .NET, because .NET is just like this huge ecosystem. So ASP.NET is a web framework. So under ASP.NET, you find a lot of things. There's ASP.NET Web API, ASP.NET Web Applications, and then today we're on ASP.NET MVC. And remember, we're on ASP.NET Core. So yeah, things might look a little bit different from people who are coming from ASP.NET framework. So some of the code, not the code entirely, but like how the syntax or how the structure of like certain files is laid out, it might be different. So yeah, but more or less everything is the same. If you're a guy coming from a background of framework, coming to .NET won't really be much of a problem. So what is MVC anyways? Because people keep talking about MVC. What is MVC? Well, first things first, MVC is an acronym which stands for Model View Controller. Now, what is that? It's a design pattern used to decouple user interfaces into three parts. So there's a view, there's a model, and then there's a controller. My friends also call it separation of concerns because it kind of like makes everything on the side like you know how you code or how you normally code your projects, right? You code in the user interface on the same file, like you just mix and match everything is a big ass bulky file, and then it becomes hard to maintain, and it becomes hard to even share your code with your friends. For those people who like working with class libraries, so it becomes a real challenge, right? So now with MVC makes your development easier. And how does it do that? By separating these three separate parts. I will explain what's the difference between the view, the model, and then the controller. So now the bigger questions you might be asking yourself, okay, fine. So they create that MVC is separation of concern to separate these three words, like worlds that we don't even know about yet. But how does it work with websites? Like what role does it play in the web development area, right? What does it do? So now, as it's written here, using MVC request. Was my mic working? I think I chopped out there. Okay, so how does it work with websites? So now here's how MVC works, like with everything else. So MVC, as I said, it's basically a design pattern. It's not a framework, it's not a library, it's not anything fancy. Like, it's a design pattern. So when creating a website, it just separates everything into separate folders, 3 folders. Your view is your user interface, your controller is your controller, then your model is your classes, which I'm gonna get on a little bit shortly if I carry on with the session. So bear with me. And what role does it play in the web development community? Like, what's going on there? Okay, MVC, fine, it's a design pattern, but what does it really do? As I said, it's a separation of concerns, whereas the model stands for your classes, or and also databases, your data sets, basically. Your view is the user interface, what the user interacts with, and then the controller is what orchestrates these 2 worlds, right? So let me just move to the next slide. Move to the next slide. So we go under the hood of MVC and what MVC really is. So as I said, MVC separates into 3 worlds. I like to call it worlds of dimensions, and just use the word dimensions, right? It's separated into 3 dimensions. That's the model, where your data is. Your data source could be your database also, because if you're working with databases, they're going to be connected to your model. And there's your controllers, the guy that runs everything, and there's your views. Now, let's just like start with models. What are models in MVC? So I like to look at the word model as a fancy way of saying it's a class. You know how you normally have like your classes when you are using this approach called objects-oriented programming, or OOP. Some people like acronyms. We like to use the terminology of classes to like separate the stuff and make our code nice and clean and more maintainable, right? So basically, a model is like a class, pretty much. On your model, you find your variables, your attributes, your methods. Sometimes even your databases. As you can see here, ASP.NET supports many database engines. That includes SQL Server, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, all of the relational databases, and also non-relational databases. ASP.NET MV supports that. So whatever data source you have, you can incorporate that with the MVC model section to get your data. It's your data source pretty much. And then we come into the controller. I feel like the best way to explain what a controller is just this guy who's like, okay, there's your view here, there's your model here. Your model is like your class, could be your database or whatever. These are the 2 worlds, and then the view is like right in the middle. So I mean the controller. So the controller pretty much talks to these 2 guys, right? It's the view, the model. So when the user clicks a button on the user interface, the controller is like, okay, you click the let's say maybe you click a calculate or submit button. The calculate button is under the hood. Since it's a user interface and nothing is happening there, nothing heavy, no back-end stuff. The view carries what you see. Your buttons, your graphics, your paragraphs, all of the stuff you see when you're interacting with the websites. That's the view part. Nice. Now the controller handles which view gets rendered. So if you're on a website and then you click the next button, or you click like a button that takes you to another tab, it's the controller that handles all of that. The controller is kind of like the middleman. It's like the guy that knows the guy. So whenever you want to do something or somebody wants to interact with your application to a certain level, or maybe they want to go to a certain tab, the controller knows how to access those tabs. So you click a button, let's say it's a calculator. Let's say you created a normal calculator application, and then you click the calculate button. The calculations, remember, you do calculations on your class. Now in this context, model. So since the view lives separately from the model, remember, separation of concerns, the controller connects those 2 worlds together. The controller's like, okay, this person click the calculate button. Now the calculate button is supposed to execute a certain method in the class, or should I say model. So it goes and talk to that. Same thing with the view. The view for MVC is powered by something called the Razer View engine. Now, what is a Razer View engine? A Razer View engine is basically an engine that allows you to write HTML content and also incorporate that with C# code. So if you're a person who only has like C# knowledge and not really a lot of JavaScript knowledge, you can pretty much write your user interface only using C# and HTML, literally. That's what the Razer View engine supports. And it's something called Razer Syntax, which I'll show you what it exactly looks like when you're coding and how you know exactly, okay, fine, this is Razer Syntax. This is pure HTML, right? But basically the main gist of this is that all the views or the user interfaces that are created are using the MVC design pattern powered by the Razer View engine, right? So I feel like that's out of the way. Let me show you a brief diagram on how this whole thing looks, right? Because I know it's a little bit confusing right now. So this is how MVC is basically. As I said, this is the user here at the middle. This is the controller. This is the model. This is the view. So the user sees the view, right? So you see the error. The user sees the view, and then they do a certain action, and then the controller goes back to the model and manipulates. Let's say maybe there's a code calculation where a certain method is executed. It goes there, executes that method, and then updates the view. Same way as how APIs, for those people who know how APIs work. The APIs, like, they pretty much manipulate the current state of the view. Same thing with controllers. They manipulate how the view works. They kind of work as an API because, as I said earlier on, ASP.NET supports a lot of frameworks, a lot of web frameworks. So they were working with ASP.NET MVC, and then there's another one called ASP.NET Web API, which is the same as a controller in the .NET world. It's the same as a controller. So if you know how to work with controllers, you very much know how to work with APIs, right? So I think that's out of the way. You guys understand what MVC is. Let me check on the chat. And people are saying stuff. Okay. I think everybody's all clear now. If you guys have any questions, just leave them down on the chat. I will tend to them, okay? Because this is supposed to be an interactive session. This is not supposed to be like one of those hard sessions where it's like this one guy talking all over nonstop. You know, on this session, today's session on Friday, we're chilled. We're just chilled. You know, we're talking. We're buddies here. We're friends, right? So if you have anything you want to ask me, or if you want to like stop me at a certain place or get confused along the way, just ask me below the chat. I'll be there. Tory, like my nickname is Tory. So Tory will be there for you. I'll be there for you. I'll be your boo today if you're a girl, and I'll be your buddy if you're a dude today. I got you, bro. So I feel like the content part is done. The notes, documentation, however you like to call it. Let's just jump right into the code. Okay, let me just, I'm just gonna open my Visual Studio. Just gonna open my Visual Studio. Just give me a second there. Opening up Visual Studio. Opening up Visual Studio. It's a little bit frozen for some reason. My computer is taking some heavy weight. It's working overtime because I have a lot of apps running in the background. Okay, I think it's fine now. Let me just share it. Let me share my Visual Studio. Let me share my page. I'll share just now. Share screen. This is my Visual Studio. Check if it's sharing. I think it's sharing. Yeah, I think it's sharing. So basically, this is I've already made a project. Already made a project for you guys that's already runs. I'm gonna run it. Right, I'm gonna run this project and then show you what it does. It's basically a simple calculator. It adds two numbers, and then after that, we're gonna create it from scratch. So I want you guys to know what you're creating, right? So I'm gonna run this application. Let me just share. Let me just try to run it. Just a second. Just a second. Let me share it. It's running on Chrome. Share window. Chrome tab. Where's the Chrome tab? I think it's on now. I think it's on. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. But then, yeah. This is basically what we're going to be doing today. Right, this is what we're going to be doing today. It's a simple calculator that adds up two numbers. Let me just demonstrate it and how it actually works. So I already tried it and tested it because I didn't want to have an application that crashes before the actual session. But if you like worried about how I did all of this, don't worry. We actually do that right now. I just want to show you how the application works. Just start with 1 + 1. 1 +1, and then hit calculate. It gives us 2, right? Right here, it gives us 2. As you can see, let me see if my extension actually works. It gives us 2. Yeah, it gives us 2 here. So I think you can see how the application runs, right? That's what we're basically gonna be doing. It's nothing fancy, you know. It's just a simple calculator. You can do more than that. You can create a whole website with MVC. But since now we're starting, this session is for everyone, especially for beginners, because a lot of people really realize how easy it is to create a simple website. Now I'm creating a calculator that's gonna be online. I could make this portable if I wanted to, but then since we on web development, all of this stuff is gonna be online. As you can see, it's running on localhost, so it's not deployed yet. And by deploy, I mean it's not like uploaded to a remote server like Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS, where someone can access it through a URL. You know, it's still running locally, hence why it's written localhost, right? So since you can see how the application works, let's just go and create it then, right? Because you're like, oh, okay, you know what, Tony, we see what you're doing. You just given us a pre-coded application that we don't even know how you got there, right? So let me just go and open my Visual Studio, my favorite IDE. Let me just open up my Visual Studio. Let me stop screen. Open up my Visual Studio. Check if it's sharing. I think my screen is sharing. I think my Visual Studio is sharing. So this is the code for the application we're doing, right? This is the code. Worry not, we're gonna start this all over again. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to File. We're gonna create a new project now, a whole new project. We're gonna go to File as we wait for my Visual Studio to respond, because Visual Studio is an IDE, and you know how IDEs pull a lot on your RAM and CPU. Right? And then we're gonna go to New Project as we wait for the window to load. I don't know if it's gonna show on those guys' side. I'm not really sure. Let me check if it's showing. I think it's showing. Can you guys see the window where it is asking me for the template? I think it's showing. I'm not sure because on my side it is. Let me check on your guys' side if it's showing. Tell me in the chat if it's showing. I'm not really sure. I'm going to share my entire screen for you guys to see it. Okay, let me share my entire screen. You can see everything that I'm doing. You don't get confused or lost along the way. Yeah, I don't think it's showing. It's not showing. Let me just stop sharing. Just remove. Let me share my entire screen now. Share my entire screen so that you guys will see everything that I'm doing. Okay, yeah, I think everything is visible now. So, as I said as last time when we were creating control applications, you go to File, or maybe when you put up a Visual Studio, this is what you should get after clicking Create a Project. And then here there's a bunch of templates here, There's Blazor app, there's some other stuff we don't even use. But mainly today we're on ASP.NET Core. Remember that we're on .NET Core, and then this is a web application. And inside here, I'm not sure if you guys can see inside here. Let me just try to zoom in. So inside here we have a bunch of stuff, right? A bunch of stuff. And then if you can see, MVC is part of those things that we want. So they're inside this template, so we can work with that pattern. We can also work using Angular for the front end kids, Angular, React, React Plus, and then Redux. Yeah. So let me just zoom out and then select this template, and then click next. And then I'm gonna give it a name. What should I call it? Calculator. My calculator. Let me call it my calculator. And then here is a location where you want to save your projects, the solution. I want to place my solution in the same directory as the project. So I want everything to be put in one folder. I'll leave this checked. And then I'll say click create. And then you wait for Visual Studio to create my project. Visual Studio to create a project. Oh. Let's just wait for that. I don't know how long Visual Studio is going to take. my light fell off there. I think it's fine now. And my lights fell off, so I had to put it back again. As we wait for Visual Studio to create this project, it depends on what machine you're using. If you're using like a faster machine or like any other type of desktop that has like really good specs, high RAM, high CPU, even an SSD even, this process, it's done in seconds. But since I'm using a low spec PC, it has like low RAM, low CPU. It's not really bad, but then it's not the best CPU for production. Okay. What is going on now? So many things I'm seeing. Something should. Oh, there we are. And then remember, I selected a template of the ASP.NET Core application. And then there's a lot of things inside there. I told you the MVC is part of it. Angular is part of that template. There's a lot of stuff inside that whole template. So there's a template and there's templates inside, right? So the main one we concern about is model view controller. As you can check here, remember I told you there's web API, web applications, and there's also an API, Angular and React. But we're mainly concerned about model view controller. A web application that uses a design pattern called model view controller. So we're going to select this one, leave the default stuff checked. And also, if you're working with Docker, you can also enable Docker support here for you're working with containers. And then here, I'm going to enable Razer runtime compilation. And what this will do, this will allow me to edit my views while my application is running without having to close, shut down my application, build it again, start it. So I'll just edit, save, and then it's going to automatically pick up the changes on the view. So I'm going to click create. That's going to create my project. I'm going to create my project. So wait for VS to create this project. I'm going to create a simple calculator, nothing fancy. I mean, let me know if you guys have worked with Visual Studio before in the chats, or what's your favorite IDE to use when you're working with when you're creating web applications. And some people even use like text editors like Visual Studio Code and Rider. Yeah, there's one by JetBrains called Rider. So now this is the default. The template is going to look like by default after creating it. If you check here, there's some default stuff here. Let me just try to open this folder. There's some default stuff here. There's a default error model. This is the template. If you guys understand what the word template means, it means there's some stuff that's already pre-generated for you, right? So, it's kind of not responding. Continue, wait. Let me stop this from running. My screen, white screen of death. Let me shut down this. Okay, yeah. Exception. I think that's running. That's fine. Let's leave it there. So this is how the default app is going to look like after creating the template. Nothing like there's only default stuff, right? There's a default controller, a default view, a home view, and then the default model, the error class that handles errors. So since we're creating a simple calculator, you have to add all the things we need. Now, as the acronym starts, auto view controller, some people be like, I'm going to start with the model, go with the view, and then go with the controller. But I always like to start with your data source, which is the model, or should I say class, right? So I'm just going to go to models here. I'm just going to go to models. I'm going to right-click on models. Right-click on models and click add, and then go add a class. Go add a class there. A window should pop up asking me to rename, give my class a name. So I'm gonna call my class digits, because we're gonna be adding 2 digits. Let me call it digits. Digits. I'm gonna wait for this to load, and this is how my class is gonna look like after I created it. I called it digits, and now I'm gonna put in 2 properties. Remember, we're creating a calculator. Right, to create a calculator. And for those who are joining for the first time and are wondering what's going on here, what you see here, let me just open this. So what you see here on my right is a Solutions Explorer. This is where all the files are going to be for your applications. Could be anything, your images, your videos, all the stuff that you're going to be working with. You're going to access it through the Solutions Explorer. So if you're on this side. And then here, this is the main coding area where I'll be coding. This area is the main coding area where I'll be coding, right? So, and then at the top here, it's basically tabs, like how it is on your browser. These are tabs, right? These are tabs. So yeah, this is an IDE, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. You pretty much use that to code. It gives you a suite of resources. It's not the same as a text editor. An IDE gives you a lot of things like IntelliSense, a debugger. You can go look up those terms if you get confused. But let's get back to the main thing. But you can leave questions in the comments. I'll answer all of them. So remember that we're creating a simple calculator that takes in two properties from the user, which are numbers, and then calculates them. So we're gonna create those properties. I like to use shortcuts when I'm creating properties. Visual Studio gives us shortcuts like if you type in prop and then double tab, it gives you this, and then these are gonna be integers. No, let me just make him a double, just in case I put in decimal numbers. And I'm gonna call this number 1 because there's gonna be 2 numbers. I'm gonna call this one number 1, and then create the second property. Call it double. Number 2. It only has like different names. So these are the properties that are going to store the data. Remember, I said the model is your data source. Pretty much is your data source. So this is where those 2 numbers that we're going to capture from the user are going to sit. They're going to sit on these 2 properties, number 1 and then number 2. So let me finish that. These are getters and setters, our property structure. And then I go on ahead. Actually, let me create another property here called total, where I'm going to store the total number after the calculation, right? So it's a property there. Let me make it a double also. Call this one total. Yeah, I'm gonna call this property total. And let me make my methods. Remember what I said about methods? Methods are pretty much the guys that handle the heavy weight. So inside your class, you can have a variety of stuff. There's your properties or some other things. And the methods are the guys who execute actions, right? As I said, the controller goes captures inputs from the user through the view or understands what the user wants, and then it goes to the model and manipulate that and get what you need, and then split it back on the view. So now we work on calculations. Calculations are done in methods, right? Remember, a class is made up of methods, right? Methods and properties. So we're going to create our method and make it public, make it a double, since we're working with doubles here. I'm gonna call it addition. Since we're going to be adding these 2 numbers. I could have a separate method for subtracting, it doesn't matter, but since we add in, I feel like it's convenient to give it a proper name. It's just naming convention. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to have a variable here to store my calculations before I add a return type. That's yeah. Then double, applying it to 0.0, and then sum will be equal to the first number plus the second number. Basically, this is how my method is going to behave, and then I add a return type, which is sum. This is my coding style. Some people just second all of this and put it under return, right? But then for me, that's like the code is not clean. This is the only method we need for now, since we're working on a simple application. And remember, I said we start off with the model, our data source, and then go to the controller. The controller is the guy that's going to tell the view what to display. And then when I go to the folder called controllers, and then you right click again, zoom in, right click again, add, and then add controller. I'm going to add a controller there. I'm going to click an empty MVC controller, because you check this, the other controllers have read and write actions, where it also generates views for you. This is pretty much scaffolding, right? So if you wanted to add a controller that's going to generate views for you automatically before you even code them yourself, you can select this one. This one has read and write actions. If you have a database like SQL, MongoDB, PostgreSQL, whatever works for you, right? So we want an empty one because we want to create everything from scratch. I want to show you guys everything. I'm not hiding anything today, right? So let's click this one and add. And then we're going to add And then I should ask me the name. Now, here's the tricky part. Let me just try to zoom in this part. Here's the tricky part. When you're working with ASP.NET MVC, actually ASP.NET, not just MVC, ASP.NET web applications, when you're creating your controllers, you have to be extremely cautious about how you name your controllers, right? So if you check here, there's something written by default, they give you name controller, right? They give you home controller.cs. So you might want to leave the suffix controller, right? Because that's how Visual Studio understands that this is a controller. Because remember, controllers are still modules, are still classes, but they do certain things. The only way for Visual Studio to know that, okay, I'm not supposed to treat this file, the CS file, as a class, but rather than as a controller that is a class at the same time, right? So you might want to leave this name controller, suffix controller. I'm only going to change the word that says home, right? So I'm going to name my controller add. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name my controller add, since it manipulates the addition and how the view is supposed to be displayed, right? So let me zoom out. Always make sure you leave the suffix controller. You remove the first word before controller, and then I click add. Now, on ASP.NET Core, for those people who are coming from ASP.NET Framework, you notice my actions are not written the same. This is I action results, not normal action results. As soon as you add I, it's a whole new different thing. Now, I action results pretty much allows you to add a variety of things. It just gives you more flexibility. Like, I would explain what it is right now, but then it's beyond the scope of this lesson. I don't want to confuse you guys. I'm just gonna use what you guys understand better, and then as time goes on, we just touch on I action results. So I'm just gonna use a normal action results. I'm gonna create an action. Now, what are actions in MVC? Actions, remember that I said the controller is also a class, right? So actions are kind of like methods, right? So kind of like methods. They handle what data should be displayed on the view, right? So I'm going to create an action that's going to pull data from the model, my digits model or my digits class, and slingshot them to the view. So I have to add an action inside the controller that's going to handle that specifically, right? So I'm going to add that action result, and I'm going to call it. What should I call it? What should I call it? Call it adding. Only whatever I want. You have to put a return type. It has to return a view, obviously. And then here's the tricky part. Before you jump into writing any code inside the action, remember, I'm not sure if you guys know about HTTP status code. There's something called HTTP status code. There's HTTP post. Okay, let me write them down. So there's HTTP post for posting data to the DB, for posting data to the database. So I call database DB. There's HTTP get. There's HTTP get. HTTP get for getting data from the user. Now we're not getting it from the database, we're getting it from the user, right? You can also get it from the database, it doesn't matter. Get is pretty much for pulling. As the word says post is taking something and then posting it somewhere. So if you go on if you go to Facebook and write a comment and then click comment, that's an HTTP post because you're posting that to Facebook's database, right? And now when you go to somebody's profile and click photos, that's an HTTP get. You're pulling that photo from Facebook's database. So HTTP get data. HTTP, and then there's HTTP put. HTTP put for editing or modifying data. Now you notice, I'm just gonna keep using Facebook as a reference. So if you notice sometimes when you post something and you realize maybe there was a spelling error, or maybe you want to go edit a few things that you posted a couple of months, a couple of hours ago, and I realize, holy moly, there's actually a spelling error. Then you go there, and then you edit. And HTTP put actually handles that. Remember, working with the web works with HTTPs. If you notice that the URLs, they're always written HTTP, HTTPS, and then the name of the website you're trying to go to. Now, whenever you're working with web applications, you're always going to use HTTP. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is transferring data from different locations, right? Now, in this context, since we're capturing data from the user and then making calculations with it, we're going to use HTTP post, right? Because post, I told you, post could be for posting data on a database or capturing that data and then doing some stuff with it. Since you're going to do a calculation with it, you're going to put the HTTP post there as code. And then inside here, my adding adding action, or should I say method, I'm gonna call in the name of the class that I want the data to come from. Because I have to specify, okay, fine, as I said, the action handles what data gets split from the view, but I have to specify exactly which model or which class that data is coming from. It needs to know, it won't know automatically because it would have 100 classes or 100 models, right? So it needs to know exactly where. So the name of my class is digits, and I'm gonna pass an object to it. I'm just gonna call my objects for now, right? Or just I'm just gonna call it an object. Now what is an object? An object is an instance of a class. It's like a nickname. It's the guy that knows the guy. So if you, as I told you, that MVC is separation of concerns. Now if you want to access digits, you have to go through an object. Since they live in two separate dimensions, but objects knows about digits. So if you want to access digits, you have to like objects, go to inside the object, and then you channel through the digit model, if that makes sense. Yeah, I was supposed to get an error. I don't know how I never got an error. That's weird. Let's call this OPJ and then go put a namespace here to actually call that I'm using calculator dot models. You have to call it namespaces. Namespaces are kind of like libraries, right? So and then here, I have to pass in that object that's going to be returned on the view. Okay. Now here's the tricky part. Now the controller knows, okay, fine, I'm supposed to be getting data from the model or from the class, but what data am I getting? You know, as I said, the controller manipulates what data comes and gets spit back to the view. So you have to specify, because you can't just like say, hey, I'm pulling everything. What if the user doesn't want that? If you go on Facebook, then you click the photos button, you want to see photos. You don't want to go there and see photos, posts, everything that profile has. You want to see that specific thing that you have. Since now this action or this method is for adding numbers, we only want to see the total or those numbers being added. We're only working with that, nothing else. So we have to call in those properties from the digits class or from the digits model. Remember earlier on when I created this, let me open it. Remember earlier on when I created this property that I said I was going to use later on and assign the total number of actually the total. Actually, I'm going to reference this to my method, right? So here's how I'm going to use it. Since I want to go inside the digits model, I need to go through an object. So I'm going to call my object obj dot, and then dot total. Oh, I don't know why it's not picking it up. The total. Dot total. Equal to. Check. Something is weird there. Something weird is going on here. Also, in like Visual Studio is supposed to auto complete my code. Something weird is going on here. The action results. Let's see what's gonna happen. Return view. Oh, this is stop already. I'm gonna say return view, and then I'm gonna assign this property to my adding or should I say add method that pretty much adds the numbers. I'm assigning this property to that. So whenever I want to call that class or that method specifically, I could just call it the property total, and then it knows that okay, I'm pretty much equating this. Like I'm saying total is equal to this. So whenever I call total, this comes back. Or if whatever I call the method that was assigned to total comes back. I'm equating these two guys. I'm saying this guy is equal to the other guy, right? So I'm gonna something is not right here. I don't know what's going on. Something is not right here. And let me add another controller. Register is not even picking up any of my code. Let me add another controller. Maybe this will work. Let me add another controller. I'll try doing this. I don't know what's going on. I'll try adding another controller. Numbers. Let's call it controller numbers. So I'm gonna check something real quick. Stay with me. I'll check something real quick. Check. Add view. IntelliSense is not even working. This is so weird. This is so weird. I'm not even getting any IntelliSense out of my code. No, I don't know what's going on Visual Studio. The video is supposed to be auto-filling this and telling me the errors. Let's see what's going on here. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully this thing works. Oh. Okay, since the name of my code edition, so Visual Studio is supposed to automatically pick that up. I don't know what's going on now. I have no idea, because normally it does that, right? So I'm just gonna come at this and add this again, and then now this action in our controller that handles the calculation is done. I have to add a view now. I'm gonna come here and right click and say add view. I'm gonna add an empty view, empty template since we're gonna create it from scratch. And then I'm gonna call this view. I'm gonna give this view the same name as my action so that my action knows which view is talking about. Right, I'm gonna give this the same name. I'm gonna call it adding. Yeah, I'm gonna call it adding. You can name it whatever you want, but then I prefer you name your views the same way you named your actions, right? Yeah, it works better that way. You don't have to do a lot of code. Just add that view. And then it's gonna look something like this. Now, remember I talked about Razer Syntax. This is Razer Syntax. As soon as you see the add sign and the star sign, this is Razer Syntax. Wait, am I still on? Let me check. I think I'm still on, yeah. Okay, so this is the Razer Syntax. As soon as you see the add sign, that's basically the Razer Syntax. If you check here, the name of my view, it's cs.html. So that means there's going to be C# makes it HTML, right? So we don't need all of this boilerplate code. We need our own. We need to specify where the data for this view is going to be coming from. Model, I get it from the model, and then which projects, and then I get it from this my calculator projects dot models dot digits, the class called digits, right? And then what goes in here? Let's check this quickly. What really happened? Let's check this quickly, and then here it's supposed to be and then say what goes in there? Okay, I'm supposed to say at using. Now I have to create a form. Remember, I'm capturing data from the user. I have to create a form for that, right? So I'm gonna say at using.html. HTML.begin form. This is the line that initializes the form on my view. I'm calling a library that handles forms. It's called begin form. So begin form, and then inside here, I'm gonna have passing parameters, right? Parameter is gonna be the action method. That's gonna be the action method, which I called. Let me check on my controller. I called it. Not this one. I called it add. I think I called this. I called it adding. Okay, I called it adding. I'll go back to my view. I called it adding. And then here is the name of the controller. Oh, I name my controller. Okay, it's add. My controller is add. Add. And then here I put this form method dot post, since we use the HTTP post method. So I'm gonna call form method dot post. And now inside my form, I have to create a body for my form. Now, curly braces are the inside of my form. I have to put in stuff inside there, right? So the first thing we want inside this form is we want what happened to my screen? Am I still sharing? I don't think I'm sharing anymore. What happened? Okay, hang on. Let me share my screen back again. I'm just gonna share my screen just now back again. I don't know what really happened. The screen just stopped sharing out of the blue. So let me just share again. Let me share. My PC is frozen now for some reason. I'm gonna share my screen back again. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Share again. Share button. Share screen. Share the entire window. Yep, that's the entire window. I'll just go back to Visual Studio. And then here inside my form, I'm gonna put a label. Yeah, actually, let me put this inside a paragraph. Put a paragraph tag, and then just call it enter, and then here I'm gonna call it label and HTML. These are HTML helper. As soon as you put the @ sign, that's why you're mixing C# and HTML. So I'm gonna say HTML, call it an HTML helper. Call the label for labels. Inside here, I'm gonna pass in something called the Lambda Expression. As it goes directly to my properties in my class that are specified at the top. So this is for number 1, and then I want to give this label a name. Enter first number. I might want to put this inside quotations because it's a string. This is a string. In the second paragraph, I'm going to have the text box, the actual text box. So HTML helper again, HTML dot text box 4. Text box 4, and then call the Lambda expression again. And then I wanted to go to number 2. Why is the only number 1 here? Good. Check my digits class. Oh, I forgot both of my properties. It's not supposed to be number 2. I'm gonna go back. I'm picking it up. It's like, hey, what are you talking about? 2. And then I'm gonna add a break there because I wanted to skip a line before it captures the following number. Because remember, this is a calculator, so it captures 2 numbers. Add a paragraph again. Enter. Call the HTML helper. What we did here at the top, the same thing. Label 4. And then call the Lambda expression, which was pretty much specifying where's the label getting the which property is the label standing for, since it stands for the first number, and I have to call it the first number property. Number 2. Oh, that's supposed to be number 1. And then here we actually capturing the data and entering capturing the data. We put in text box. Text box 4. And then we put in the Lambda expression again. And we call this number 1. Oh, this is for number 2, right? This is for number 2. This is for number 2. This is for number 2. And why didn't it pick it up? Oh, I messed up my Lambda expression there. X dot number 2. There we go. You see, if Visual Studio is not picking up, if I'm auto-filling your code, you should know that something is wrong. And you should know that something is wrong. And then since both of these are captured, I have to put, let me put a break actually. So it skips a line. I don't want my code to be all clunked up. And then put a break here. Basic HTML break tag. Put a break here. And then here I'm going to put my button that's going to calculate, literally calculate all of these input types. This is input from the user. Put type, this is submit. So I'll put button, submit. I'm going to give my button a name, call it calculate. Let me add a break also there. I want to skip a line. Break. I want to skip a line also. And then after that, I want my final answer to be displayed. Check out. I'm gonna call this one total. And then I'm gonna call in the results. On views and code results, use display for. Oh, at HTML, I have to call it the helper first. That so that MVC, the Razer View engine, knows that you're talking about HTML, not just C#. Because I remember what I said. As soon as you put that @ sign, you're telling the Razer View engine that, hey, watch out, there might be a mixed match of HTML and C#. So I have to specify, okay, hey, I might mix, but I'm gonna start with HTML. So at HTML.display4, use display4 to display output. As we check on the other places, we use label for label, text box for text boxes. There's also radio button for radio buttons. Right, and then here, same thing, Lambda expression. When you're calling stuff from the model, you call it through a Lambda expression. I'll display the total. Remember when I assigned total into that addition method? Now it's coming in handy because on views it's not really the best practice to actually have actual methods on the view. You know, it makes your code run a little bit slower. Even though it runs, you know, some people say it runs, but then it runs a little bit slower, right? Now our view is done. Now we should be able to run this application. All of this is done. And for most of y'all who never saw me put this, I forgot and I put it before I shared my screen. This is basically okay, actually I don't know what this line is for. I don't know what this line is for. It's always there. When you're creating a view, it always comes in by default. I'm not sure what it's for, but it's for something else. I don't know. But normally, okay, so we're gonna run this application, right? Let me save my changes. Okay, fine. Normally when you run an application on Visual Studio, you come here, right? You come here. So now, since I told you last time on our last session, actually on the first session, I told you that .NET Core runs on everything, the terminal, Mac OS, Windows, Linux, it runs everywhere. So we're gonna run this on the terminal, right? So we're gonna run this on the terminal. So since on the terminal, this one I'm gonna put on the full screen actually. On a full screen. This is my terminal. Let me just repeat the font. I think that's big enough. That's big enough. I've already CD'd or maneuvered to directory where my app is. Right, I'm already inside the folder where my app is. Right, I moved there prior to the session because I didn't want to show you guys some confusing Linux commands and they got confused. Right, since I told you that .NET runs even on the command line, the only thing I have to do is just say .NET run. Instead of going to the IDE and clicking that button and then it debugs and then makes everything slow on your PC. For me, this is much faster. than how it normally is when I run it directly from Visual Studio, right? I know some people will say, okay, this is taking a little bit longer for you, but trust me, if I had to run it on Visual Studio directly, it's going to be way slower than it is right now. So while we wait for that to run, let me check what's going on in the chat. Okay, it's a title, bro. You on the tab. Okay, let me see what it's talking about. Let me see what Glenn is talking about. The title, the one of you on the tab. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Oh yeah, Glenn is actually right. It's the title. Like, when you're running your application. Okay, first let me explain what Glenn is saying. Remember when I said earlier on, I don't know what this code is for. Now Glenn just explained. I want the participants in the chat. They explain what this is for. This basically displays on the. It's the title of the tab. You notice if you're opening Facebook, the homepage, on the name of the tab at the top, it writes home. So this is gonna write adding. This should write adding. I don't know. It should, but sometimes it doesn't. So this is the name of the tab. Basically, it's gonna be there. Let me see if this is running. It's taking a little bit longer to run it. It's taking a little bit longer to run. I don't know why. As we wait for that to run. It's taking forever. Chat that you gotta say, nah, nothing yet. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Okay. Let me just make this a little bit smaller. So you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. Same time. Now we're waiting for this application to run the terminal. Because I specifically want to run the terminal so that you guys see exactly like what I mean when I say .NET run. .NET Core runs everywhere. Even on the terminal, it runs there. You just say .NET run and then it's supposed to run. As I wait for that to happen, my PC is slow. I don't know why it's this slow. I don't know why. So even my terminal is frozen now. I seriously need to get like a better PC. Like seriously. I don't even have a lot of stuff running in the background, but my PC is already struggling. Okay. See if this tab opens. What is going on right now? I'm not sure why it's taking longer to run because we should be like wrapping things up right now because this is a simple calculator. I shouldn't even be taking us this long. Finish. Yeah, check if everything is okay. Control. I don't care about this. Digits. Everything is here. Okay. I don't know what's going on with my terminal. It's taking longer. The application should be running right now. There's nothing in my browser. Let me see. It should be running right now. Let me see. Let me see if it's running. Let's see if it's running. We continue here. I don't know if it's running or not. It's no longer running. I hate when this happens. Okay, let's fix that actually. Let us fix that. And I'm looking at the time now. Time is already up because we normally have 1 hour. Let us fix that. Let's just take my terminal taking long. Okay, let me just go directly to the application. Go to my files. I'm just gonna go try and find it. I don't know why it's taking so long to even run. Oh, my PC is being overly slow now. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, guys, I've come up with a solution, right? Here's what we're going to do for today. Like, I don't know, my PC is frozen, nothing is moving now. The only thing that's working is my Visual Studio. The background processes are not working. I don't know why. So today we're gonna wrap it up here. Today we're gonna wrap it up here, and then we're gonna have part two of this where we're going to run the application, modify it, add styles. Because you checked how the default application was on first time when I ran the symbol calculator. Now when I come back on part two, we're going to modify it, add some color to our buttons, add some validation, right? So I think we're gonna wrap it up here for today because I clearly do not understand what's going on with my PC. I'm gonna wrap it up here for 20 because time is really against us. I had some stuff I wanted to show you guys, but now time is like really against us. So I think it's running now. Oh yeah, I think it's running. Actually, let me click it. Okay, I think it's running now. I think it's running. It should pop up here somewhere. Oh, there we go. There we go. So let me refresh this because it's the same thing. Because this is the same thing, literally. Let me refresh this and close this. This is literally the same thing. Whoop, there we are. There we are again. There we are again. Let's add our numbers. Add our numbers. 24. 24 plus 24 plus 4. 24 plus 4. 24 plus 4. Let's see if it's actually compiles up. It should give us 30. Give us 30. Let me wait for that to load. Oh, there we go. There's 30 down here. So congratulations, you now have your online calculator that you can deploy and give to your friends. They can use online, literally. If I wanted to, I could deploy this and give you guys, right? So this is the final part of our application. It runs properly, smoothly. And then on part two, we're gonna carry on this application and add colors, graphics, some other stuff. Right. So this is the part one. This part one is finished. So pretty much this is it for today's session. Thank you for having me, guys. Let me go back to the stream. Go back to the stream. Guys, thank you for having me today. That was it. I know things got a little bit confusing towards the end, but now I'm looking at time. I know some people have stuff to do, and it's Friday also, right? So thank you for having me today. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you Monday, yeah, on interview Mondays, I guess. Yeah. If you have any further questions, just leave them on the chat. And also we have a Twitter account which you can just look us up at Inspire SA. You can just give comments on everything that we did. So yeah, that's that. We're gonna wrap it up here today because time is really against our side, right? So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. Yeah. Thank you for having us. I think Narcisse is back. Let me just put him on the stream. Let me just put him on the stream. I think he's back. Yeah, let me just put him on the stream. I was alone the whole
good,
time.
bro?
Yeah, bro, I'm good. Hey,
Yeah.
it's been lonely up in town. It's been really lonely. Eh?
Yeah.
It's been really lonely by myself. And then the audience was like,
Yeah, I could tell, but I'm sure you killed the session.
I tried. There was some complications there and there, but you know, we got the end results. We got the end results. Now,
Yeah, I can tell people were enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm just happy that I'm actually like started with MVC because most of the applications I'm going to be doing after this are going to be purely out of MVC. Most of them, like people who watch the session, are going to understand what I'm doing now, and they can start on doing some amazing stuff like web APIs, and then we'd even deploy. Yeah, we should actually deploy this. I'm thinking maybe our next session.
You can also introduce them to GitHub because now that you've talked about MVC, it allows the other guys to be functional as well. So we don't need to stick on console. We can build AI in web apps and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's really going to be awesome.
We can actually do that, eh? Yeah, I'm thinking about deploying this thing. What do you think? Maybe I should deploy this calculator like when I'm talking about Azure. Because I feel like that's like the linear fashion, you know.
Yeah, I've already introduced Azure, but you can go ahead more in depth on it.
Yeah,
On the
I think
later
that would be really
session.
useful. Because I think one person asked me, I'm not sure if they asked me in the chat, they were like, can we access this calculator? And I'm like, no, it's running locally, it's running on my local host right now. But if I had to deploy it, there's gonna be a URL that you can put on your PC or your phone and then use the calculator. So yeah,
Awesome.
I think that's a wrap for today's session. Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
And before we go, just also like to apologize to the viewers who are still watching that it's been hectic on our side on Inspire SA, but we'll from next week onwards we'll hope to give out the quality content and the consistency
Yeah.
that we promised at the beginning. And yeah, so really apologize on our side as well.
Because like guys, we're students ourselves, you know. So we just need to manage our time properly. You know, we just need to manage our time properly, so we get to do the what we do best, pretty much. Yeah. I think that's it. Any last words?
So
Any final words?
see you next week for Monday for. Yeah, I'm just saying, see you for interview Mondays next week. Can't wait for that.
That'll be an exciting session. So thank you guys for joining. We'll see you on Monday, I guess. I'm Tory. I'm out.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm trying to do this too.